Give us an idea of how it works and why it's different to anything else out there. In this part of the world, we should say. Yeah.
Sure. So we've really tried to rethink the whole process of finding property from the ground up. And really, from a first principles perspective, what are the questions that people think about when they're looking for property, renting or buying? How do we answer those questions through data rather than an over-reliance on agents?
So you aggregate what's going on out there to some extent, yeah?
Yeah, so we take data from a lot of different sources, we bring it together, we try to present it in a very easy to use, a very easy to understand way so that people can actually make informed decisions online.
OK, so you can actually look for a property, but I've had people criticise it as being unreliable. How do you respond to that?
Unreliable in what sense?
In the sense that it sometimes misrepresents what's there.
Well, I mean, we've built a lot of things like data algorithms to try and track what we think the real market value of a property is. And things like that are always being refined. They're never really finished. It's always a question of, adding...
It's a work in progress, essentially.
It's always a work in progress. Valuation, in particular, is always a work in progress.
OK, but then you must be witnessing trends in the property market in Singapore and here in Hong Kong. Let's start with Singapore, because we've seen quite a contraction in house prices. What are you seeing?
So in Singapore, we're seeing that, I mean, as you say, the house prices have gone down, but the number of inquiries that we're generating are still pretty high. I mean, they're pretty even. So what we do is we take a listing from a landlord or an agent, we put it on our website, and then we connect that listing with someone who's searching. So we don't own the transaction all the way to the end. So it's very hard for us to be able to tell what's going on with the transactions themselves. What we can see are things like what's going on with the price of the listings, what's the trend.
So, of course, they negotiate after that, don't they?
Yeah. So the volume seems to be coming down, just in terms of the number of listings. But the prices are actually holding steady. They're not going... There isn't a massive contraction there.
And I've got to ask you about Hong Kong here, because it's, also Singapore, Hong Kong. Hong Kong particularly very much right at the forefront of this, but what are you looking at when you see prices here? And do you see any impact from this meltdown that we saw, not obviously one yesterday, but the one 2-3 weeks ago?
Sure.
On July the 8th.
Sure. So I think when it comes to house prices, there's always a lag, right? There's no immediate impact, right? So just one interesting trend that we've seen recently is there was definitely a drop in prices, rental and sales, about 10 to 15% in the second half of last year. And we think that...
Rental
as well. I mean, for people who know the mid-levels, rental prices in the mid-levels have been coming down in the second half of last year, and we think that was actually linked to Occupy Central. Since then, things have started going up again, but it's almost a return to parity. So it's not a case of, things are shooting off the ground, but there has been a bit of a dip, and now it's coming back up again.
Well, tell me something here as well, Asif. People are mobile mad here. We've seen Baidu and how they're spending so much on their mobile strategy. Is that one thing that you also concentrate on too? Yeah,
absolutely. We get most of our usage from mobile. Our mobile app has just actually been featured in the Apple App Store, which is a phenomenal achievement. That's not something you can pay for.
Is it free?
It's like a Michelin star, so it's quite nice.
Is it free?
It is free. Yeah. It is free, but it's not something you can buy. It's not something you can buy. It's something they endorse you for.
All right.
So it's
been featured there, yeah.
It's been featured, yeah. So that's a huge thing, and the number of downloads of the app has just gone through the sky. So it's a phenomenal time for us right now. We're very excited.
Expanding to Taipei, I understand.
Yeah. So we just recently closed our second round of funding for $3 million, and we're using that money to expand into Taipei, into Shanghai. We've also opened an office in Singapore. Hong Kong is still the mothership, but we want to go beyond in the region. So it's a very, very exciting time for us right now.